Assalamu alaikum. This is Brother Q, and this is the Muslim Marriage Experience. And this will be the first of many interviews where we interview married people to draw from their experience lessons for our lives and our marriages. I have with me today Brother Obaid S. That's what we're going to call him, and he's going to tell us a little bit about himself, and I'll ask him a few questions about his marriage. So tell us a little bit about yourself, including how long you've been married.
I've been married since March of 2015, so 2 years. This past weekend was 2 years. Alhamdulillah, it was great 2 years. It was a lot of up and down, and looking forward to the rest of them, inshallah.
Okay, inshallah. So a question a lot of people have is for those who are already married. They'll ask them, "How did you decide you want to get married?" You know, did you have a lot of friends that were getting married, and so you felt pressure from them to get married? You know, did you watch a bunch of romantic comedies and you said, "I want that too"? You know, how did you decide that you want to get married?
I think the want is one part of it, and then you have to decide if you have the tools to be ready to be married as well. So they go hand in hand. Somebody might want to get married and not have the tools, not be ready or not be prepared, and somebody might have the tools and they just don't know it, so they don't want to get married. Like you said about your situation earlier, somebody else had that conversation with you and pointed out that you're actually ready, you just don't know it, and helped you get to a point where you felt like you wanted to get married. So for me myself, I had wanted to get married for a while, but I wasn't ready. I didn't have the necessary tools to, carry out a marriage and sustain myself and a family and move forward. Until I did, I just made sure that I tried to get myself ready by mentally preparing, by listening to lectures, by talking to people, just casual conversations, and sometimes more intense conversations when you actually wanted to find out something specific about getting married or being married. Eventually, when I did acquire the tools I needed, when I was ready to get married, alhamdulillah, it was very easy, and I felt like I was prepared.
Okay, so let me ask you a follow-up question about some of the things that you've just said. Just give me a little bit more detail on the tools. You said you didn't feel that you were prepared to get married yet because you didn't have the tools. Give me one example of something that you felt that this needs to be in line before I get married.
I think it's a sense of priority. You have to know what your priorities are moving forward from that point on. There's the actual tangible things that you need. You need a certain amount of money, and you need to have a certain sense of your of moving forward, how you're going to move forward, what your next step is going to be. Are you still going to be living where you are now, or are you all of a sudden need to move? Having those things kind of laid out will make your process much easier for you. So, real simple, a 3 point list is: am I mentally ready? Do I know what will be expected of me as a husband, and what will my family situation will be? Specifically because different cultural backgrounds might have different setups when it comes to the marital life. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're ready to embrace whatever that's going to include, and if you know what that's going to include, then great. The second thing on that list would be, like I said, money. You don't need a lot of money to get married, but do need some money, and you need to know how much money you're going to need moving forward. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not just the marriage, right? It's not just the wedding, it's the marriage and the
Exactly.
family life and whatever comes after that.
Mm-hmm.
Just double your budget, right? If you can double your budget, then or I'm not gonna say that as a specific qualification, but if you feel like you can fiscally take on that responsibility, then alhamdulillah, move forward. And I guess I guess the last tool would be, you know, things that would help you to get married. So how are you going to get married? How are you going to find a potential spouse? How are you going to go about that process? How are you going to uh, take the steps to get to a point where you decide, is this person right for me or not? So alhamdulillah, I had two of those three for a while, and then alhamdulillah, when I finally got to a point where I felt like I could manage the fiscal responsibility, then I moved forward and I got married.
Alhamdulillah, that's good. All right, that's question number one. On to the next question. Whom did you consult about getting married, and what advice did they give you? Now, I know we all have random conversations with people here and there, but are there specific people? You don't have to give names, but maybe you say, my parents, my brother, my best friend, who's already been married, something like that.
Hmm.
And so, who did you consult, and what advice did they give you?
I think you mentioned many of the major categories, whether it's elder family members, parents, brothers and sisters, cousins, uncles, whoever you're close to that you trust their advice. Even those random conversations that you mentioned earlier, there's certain gems to be taken away from a random conversation from a person who's already married, right? You're hanging out with the guys. When your guy friend is already married, he mentions something. Maybe it's even a complaint about the marriage, but then it's a possible pitfall that you're aware of if you happen to catch it during that conversation, and that's part of that mental readiness to be married, right? So when you are getting in the process, when you're getting mentally ready to be married, you're going to pay more attention to certain conversation and to certain things that are said when it comes to married people or single people, etc., and you're going to hold on to them and process them in your own way. For specific advice, I went to certain brothers who I felt like had a decent handle on what marital life meant to them specifically, and maybe had some experience under the belt, maybe a couple of years. I also spoke many times to religious leaders in the community. Whether they're just there as an older brother type of response relationship, or they're there to like give you specific advice or answer specific questions. I did some reading, but a lot of it was lectures. There's some classes and stuff that you can take, a webinar here and there, that helps you think about things that you don't necessarily know and gives you a full picture. So one conversation with one person might only give you one aspect of the marital life that you are concerned about. But a course, a book, a webinar, a lecture series, a class you might take, whatever, might give you a to Z of marriage and what you're getting into, which is very helpful because you need to have a fuller perspective before you move forward with something as uh, pivotal in your life.
Hmm. And I wanted to, I guess, repeat something that you mentioned at the beginning, was that you might actually gain some I guess good insights from those random conversations you have with
Yeah,
friends that have been married already.
absolutely.
So I thought that was actually a good point. I just wanted to repeat that.
Absolutely. So those, random guy sessions, you're just hanging out, then there happens to be one of the guys that's already married. They're gonna tell you some reality checks that you might not be aware of. They might, like I said, they might give some of their personal complaints about marital life, um, or they might tell you, well, this is what I did to get married, and it just might be, like I said, might not be a conversation about marriage, but if the topic comes up and you happen to get some sort of some information, if you're in the right mindset, if you're thinking about getting married, trying to get prepared for marriage, you'll glean some of those pieces of information and process them.
Fantastic. All right, and the last question: what is one piece of advice you would give those brothers and sisters looking to get married? I know there's plenty of things we could, tell people who want to get married. But just one thing that you have that you think would be of benefit to those looking to get married.
Um, if you're looking to get married, you need to start the process. Now, whatever that means for you, whether that's putting the word out there, having conversations with other people, if that's expressing interest in a potential spouse, take the action step. Um, for me, it was, let's use the most easiest avenue available to me at that moment. So whatever that is for the individual, they should just embark on it, not worry about, well, how's it going to happen, and all that kind of stuff. I would recommend that whatever avenue you're going to use, you should have your biodata, as they call it, ready.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's not a written out thing, just you should know what it is that you need to present of yourself to somebody else, and what it is you're looking to find out about somebody else
Mm.
when you're looking to get married.
Mm-hmm.
That'll move along your conversations and move along the process a little bit quicker.
Mm-hmm. You know, I just wanted to say that sounds like common sense, but some people, I guess, they don't do that, right? They might say, "I want to get married, but I don't know how. I don't know where this conversation is supposed to go."
Mm.
And one thing you mentioned earlier too was, taking classes and webinars and different things that give you a fuller picture of marriage. That might help you with some of those things, that you want to, your bio data that you want to that you want to prepare about yourself, and that you want to try and find out about other people. And one thing that I learned before I got married was always be willing, if you're the one looking, obviously, always be willing to give more than you receive, right?
Mm.
Because I mean, you're the one approaching them, and they don't know you, right? And I don't know. There's a feeling of just kind of it's a different feeling, being approached, right? Like someone, even basically what I'm trying to say is, you know, if you give them more, then they'll be willing to give you more as well.
Yeah, of
Especially if
course.
you're the
It'll
one
move the
trying to.
conversation along. So
Exactly.
if you are trying to express interest, or you're trying to find out about somebody specific, or if you're just trying to present the idea that, hey, I'm looking to get married and I'm ready to get married, how can you help me, to somebody, whether that's, an elder individual, whether that's somebody in the community that that helps people in this process, etc. Like, think of it, as we tend to think of other things, whether it's in our education or in our work or so. You need to present yourself, right? So you're going to come with a small presentation. Hey, I'm ready to get married, um, because X, Y, and Z. I'm hoping you can help me with X, Y, and Z. If you're talking to somebody specific, if you are, like you said, you're approaching a parent of a sister, or you're talking to a sister specifically, or whatever, you need to go and introduce yourself and share something about yourself that you think is going to pique enough interest in them to want to return that same gesture. If you don't, and you just say, hey, let's have a conversation, and we'll see what it's about when we start talking, then it's not going to move that process along as fast as it could. So go there, tell them that, listen, I want to get to know you for the sake of marriage, or I want to get to know more about you, and something. Or if you're going to an elder individual, if you're going to the parent or a sibling or cousin, whatever, you tell them, I'm interested in so and so because, and this is a little bit about me, and these are the three great strengths that I have in my personality, and this is what my next 5 years looks like. Or, okay, fine, you don't have a 5-year plan to present. Of course, many people don't, but you need to be able to comfortably answer those questions. So if somebody turns around and says, oh, really? So, like, what, you just moved to Houston, you're sticking around? I don't even know what you're up to. You tell them, like, yeah, I got a job here, inshallah, I'm going to be buying the house next year, whatever. You show what your projection is, and then somebody feels comfortable to step into that stream or not.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. Cool. Well, we're out of time. Thank you for watching the Muslim Marriage Experience. Once again, this is the first of many interviews, and we thank Ubaid for being with us today. And until next time, this is Brother Q. Assalamu alaikum.